Hello, my name is James Enchardi. I work at the VA hospital in Aurora, Colorado. Today I'm going to talk about Bowman and Deal's Four Frames. The Four Frames is a problem-solving tool for people in leadership positions. We have seen brilliant leaders in the past, smart men and women who make tragic and costly blunders. The Four Frames approach is meant to help leaders to make smart decisions in the presence of complicated situations. By the end of this presentation, you should be able to state how ethically poor decision making can hurt businesses and state Mitzberg's 5Ps. Now, before I go any further, I just should explain that the project that I did in InvestCare 500 was slightly different than anyone else's. While most people's projects required joining a leadership group and examining proposals in that group, my project involved examining the leadership group of Johnson & Johnson, which is a venerated American pharmaceutical company, and the role that it played in the recent opioid crisis, eventually ending to its historic $572 million fine in August of 2019. In 2012, Johnson & Johnson was viewed favorably by many Americans who saw Johnson & Johnson's logo as synonymous with quality medical care. In truth, however, the company was burdened by scandal after scandal related to the quality of its products and the harm that those products did to the American public. That's the environment that was in place when a man named Alex Gorsky became the new Johnson & Johnson CEO. When he took the wheel from the previous CEO, the opioid crisis existed but had not yet been discovered. Johnson & Johnson, along with other pharmaceutical companies, were well aware of it and were profiting greatly from it. Now, I don't have time to get into everything that Johnson & Johnson and the other pharmaceutical companies did to the American public for the sake of profit, so I'll just do my best to briefly summarize it. Johnson & Johnson, along with the other pharmaceutical companies, used wildly immoral methods to push excessive amounts of opioids to Americans, fully aware that what they were doing was killing many, many Americans. The opioid crisis started in 1999 and continued unknown to most. Finally, in 2018, the federal government finally had to move to stop it. By the time the opioid crisis had taken its toll, it cost more than 200,000 lives, and most of them were lost under Gorsky's watch. Fully aware of his company's immoral behavior, Alex Gorsky might have stopped it and saved over 100,000 American lives. Instead, he chose to allow Johnson & Johnson to continue pushing opioids to Americans in excessive amounts, choosing to prioritize profits over ethics. You wouldn't think he was so unethical. I mean, look at this quote. "Oh, we aspire to build a healthy world, free of disease, and our approach here is a potential blueprint for helping us and others succeed against that broader global goal in the future." Oh, that's really touching. In light of Johnson & Johnson's actions in the opioid crisis, this quote is especially disquieting. To me, who studied the opioid epidemic and Johnson & Johnson's role in it, pictures of Alex Gorsky, who makes $18 million a year, smiling in the face of thousands of dead Americans, is especially disturbing. And the industry itself has been weakened by this scandal. Johnson & Johnson faces a lot of legal battles with billions of dollars on the line. Nice going, Mr. Gorsky. You're awesome. Well, here is Mitzberg's 5 Ps of strategy. Well, first let's talk about the plan. As I said, in 2012, Mr. Gorsky became CEO of Johnson & Johnson. What would have happened if he had decided to stop the opioid crisis before it was discovered? Assuming that he was powerless to stop it earlier, or maybe he just did not know about it before he became CEO, This would have been the most ethically sound thing he could have done as the new CEO. But first, why would he want to do this? He stood to make a lot of money off of the opioid crisis. Well, firstly, let's face it, allowing over 100,000 Americans to die so that you can make your stockholders a little wealthier is not a particularly ethical thing to do, and I think we can all agree on that. Secondly, more profit and fewer fines. This would be a costly endeavor to clean up Johnson & Johnson's name, and they'll lose a lot of money over this, but they'll come back stronger and a healthier company. In the pharmaceutical industry, they depend on contracts with governments, both the U.S. government and foreign governments. Having a clean, ethical background will make it easier to secure these contracts. And then reason number 3, the long-term health of the company will be improved. As Ken Frazier, the CEO of Merck, once said, a company that acts without ethics in favor of short-term profits sacrifices the long-term health of the company. So as you can see, Johnson & Johnson can really gain a lot by cleaning up its reputation. Now let's go back to Mittsburg's 5 Ps. We just talked about the plan, how they want to have a company free of scandal and dishonesty. So they would need to first right the wrongs they are committing and have committed. So now we come to perspective, an organization's way of framing where it wants to go and how it wants to get there. First, what Mr. Gorski should do is meet privately with the board of directors and announce that they're going to make some substantial changes to clean up Johnson & Johnson's image. They will be spending a lot of money to clean up their image and make more ethical decisions in the future. Board members or company officers who are not on board with this new ethical approach should be offered a chance to resign. To be honest, I would not be very sorry to see them go. Healy and Seraphim in 2019 state that the root problem of a company scandal is not ineffective regulations, oversight, or compliance systems. In cases like Johnson & Johnson's, weak leadership and an immoral corporate culture is to blame. Often when companies are the subject of wrongdoing, like that of Johnson & Johnson, they don't see this as their personal responsibility or evidence that something was ethically flawed in their organizations. These people saw nothing wrong with providing enough opioids to kill over 100,000 people. So I don't need these people around, not in my leadership circle. I'm sure there's a dictator in a third world country someplace that would be happy to give these people a job. Continuing with perspectives, we need to make some new positions in our boardroom. That's what I would think if I were Mr. Gorski. These are the brand new board members that would be established. These board members would work together to right the wrongs that had been done and to improve the company reputation. Perhaps most notably, the Ethics Council would advise on further decision-making. Claims, payout, and public relations committees would report to the Ethics Committee, and the Ethics Committee would report to the CEO directly. Next is position, the way an organization positions itself in its environment. This is the key point. Johnson & Johnson would now announce its role in the opioid pandemic. It would go to the FDA and wouldn't hold anything back. The company would be 100% transparent about the whole thing. Johnson & Johnson would become the first and only pharmaceutical company to do this and publicize that it's looking to own up to its mistakes and turn over a new leaf. And next, I'll talk about pattern, a consistent pattern of decisions. We let our board members go to work. The claims department will investigate claims against Johnson & Johnson with regard to their faulty products. If claims are valid, the payout department will offer a written apology and pay a fair amount to settle the claim. These procedures will be overseen by the Ethics Committee. Ploy is a plan or decision whose purpose is to provoke a reaction from the competition. Competition would be weakened by government fines and questions about why they did not have the integrity to come forward with the truth like Johnson & Johnson did. Johnson & Johnson could also assign a legal team to make sure that the legal process is dragged out as much as possible, making it expensive for their competitors to continue to drag their names through the mud. The more the public hears about their legal woes, the worse they'll look. So Johnson & Johnson's brave admission would put their competitors in a very difficult spot. Imagine trying to explain to everyone why they weren't willing to come forward with this highly unethical plan to kill thousands of Americans for the sake of profit. They could look forward to larger fines from the government and loss of government contracts. They would probably try to remind everyone that Johnson & Johnson is guilty too, but since Johnson & Johnson came forward willingly and was willing to settle all their claims, this defense would not have a lot of steam behind it. So that was how Johnson & Johnson could clean up their image using the Mittsburg's 5 Ps to help their reputation. Johnson & Johnson would not only lose a lot of money, but they would lose the opportunity to make a lot of money had they allowed the opioid crisis to play itself out. But the long-term benefits would be realized. Greater wealth and fewer fines and a stronger, healthier company could be had. Thank you very much, and my contact information was in the slide previous. Thank you for paying attention.